about. I'm going to start with Michelle Obama. She was on stage being interviewed the other day and dropped the S-bomb. Like for her, I feel like she's always been so sweet. It doesn't feel like she could ever drop the F-bomb. God knows she probably does at home. But, I mean, you should hear me. I curse like a sailor when I'm not on the air. It's true. People who have had lunch with me or coffee with me after the show are like, wow, you're kind of a trash mouth. But Michelle Obama just doesn't seem like she would be. Well, here's what she said. Here's the quote. And I'm not going to read the S word because I don't want to get fired. But she said this, quote, marriage still ain't equal, y'all. It ain't equal. I tell women that whole you can have it all. Nope. Not at the same time. That's a lie. It's not always enough to lean in because that bleep don't work. She said that bleep doesn't work. So then she kind of giggled. Everybody in the audience sort of giggled and she giggled. And I think do we have the clip of what came next?
But I'm back now.
We may wander again.
But sometimes that stuff doesn't work.
She corrected herself. That stuff doesn't work. Doesn't work. Hilarious just that she, let it drop and actually surprised herself. She went on to say that she just got so comfortable on stage with them that she kind of forgot where she was. But I think there's an important message there for getting the curse, which is funny. And that is what she said before that. Marriage isn't equal. It's not equal. I tell women that whole you can have it all. No, not at the same time. It's a lie. And I think there's really something we need to dig into there because it's really true. It's certainly true for me. I mean, a lot of people, look at what I get to do for a living and they say, wow, you're so lucky, blah, 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 you must have it all. Well, here's the thing. I wasn't able to truly start this career, not really, until my daughter left for college. I could not have done what I'm doing now while I was raising my daughter at home. Not possible. And so, this is 2018, and I don't believe any woman who didn't have a really amazing support system could do what I'm doing right now. I work 24/7. And just to be completely transparent, I don't make a lot of money. So to do that, you can't do that unless you have time like I do to do it. Not to mention, as I said, a support system for the kids if you've got kids at home. And a lot of women in media are starting to speak out about those kinds of things. And it's almost impossible to be a journalist as a mom. Forget even single or married. It's almost impossible to be a mom and a journalist because you can't drop everything and run to cover breaking news. You've got kids at home. Unless you have a full-time nanny that lives in the house with you, you cannot run out the door. Or if your husband is a stay-at-home dad, which we know statistically is still a very, very small number. So it's a very important point. And I also think beyond that, there's often things that we forget about societally if they're not part of what we're living every day. But if you are a married woman with young kids at home, I think you'll recognize the fact that even though you're married and maybe you've split some chores, you do this and he does that still you as the woman probably do a lot more of the planning, let's say. When I was married, certainly that's the way it was. I mean, we split some tasks, but I also still was sort of overall more responsible. And I think we do that to ourselves to some extent as women, but our men let us do it. And so it's not equal. It's not. And, I also think that women, in careers, we tend to do ourselves a little bit of a disservice in constantly asking for work-life balance. It's something that annoys me like no other when I go to a women's conference and, career women will raise their hand and ask about work-life balance. Or one of the, panelists, some highly accomplished woman on stage will say something about having it all and work-life balance. And men don't talk like that. They don't. They don't talk about having it all and having work-life balance. They just have their lives. Period. Nick's making a face. Do you disagree?
Younger guys. A lot of guys my age, my friends, we do talk about that because I think the difference between, say, millennial men and, Gen X men is that we kind of grew up seeing the fact that dad or mom was never home, always working. We only had one parent. A lot of times we were kind of latchkey, like you said, and we're
Right.
like, yo, I don't want to be that kind of dad.
Right.
I want to be a better dad. There's been more of an emphasis on taking a fatherly role with my generation. So I don't disagree with you. Yes, majority of men, because millennials are still not
Working their
majority
way in.
adult, right?
Sure.
Yeah, do feel that way. But I think the younger generation has a little bit of a different view
Okay.
on that.
To some extent, I hope you're right, because it should not be a woman versus man thing. Like, either everybody gets work-life balance or nobody gets work-life
Right.
balance. Like, that's how it should be, like, honestly. And in my generation, I'll just be clear, I'm Gen X. In my generation, there's no such thing as work-life balance. And frankly, I don't think that's actually something that we should be looking for, per se, at certain points in our lives, right? Like, yes, we should want to be the best parents that we can be. But you can't. I think what Michelle Obama is getting at is you can't have it all. If your primary thing is work-life balance and it's to be at home with your kids or to spend more time with your kids, then you cannot expect to be the CEO. It doesn't work like that. If you want to be the CEO, then you're going to have to give up some time at home. If you want to be an entrepreneur and have your own business and be the next Mark Zuckerberg, while you're on your way to that, you're going to have to give up some personal time. You're not going to have the time to go out drinking with your buds or to go to the spa. It's just how it is. And so, it is not unrealistic of us to say you have to make a choice sometimes and you have to prioritize. And at some points in our lives, our priorities are going to be our kids. And at some points in our lives, our priorities are going to be our careers. And, in the past, certainly, and again, to your point, Nick, in my generation and the Gen X and the boomers and the older folks, men didn't have to make that choice. They got to have the CEO job, and there was a family that would accept whatever they were able to give. If it was 5 minutes, fine. If it was 5 hours, great. But nobody worried about it. Dad could go fly off at a moment's notice to cover a breaking news story or, be gone for weeks at various and sundry meetings. And mom could not. And mom picked up the pieces. I mean, when my daughter was little, my ex-husband traveled all the time, and I couldn't do that. One of us could and one of us couldn't, and he was the one who got to do it. That's just how it was. So, to say that we're equal, we're not there yet. Maybe you guys, maybe you youngsters, maybe you millennials